A, B, C, D, E, F, J, M, S, well, you get it. This is the alphabet according to the European Commission. See, when it comes to classifying cars, there is more than one way to do it, and today we're going to look at the European car segments. The European car segments were established by the European Commission in the late 1990s, and as formal as it sounds, its use is actually rather vague. For instance, these segments differ from the European NCAP safety classes as well as the EPA size classes in the United States. The segments are not based on any measurable statistic like size or engine displacement. You could almost say it is just based on gut feeling, although the length of the car seems to be the starting point. So, why does it exist? Well, although it's not as strict and formal as it seems, it is used by the car industry. If a newcomer likes to build a new car, the car segments can help identify which segments is the most interesting, and then you can take a look at the cars of the competition offers in that segment and start your development from there. The motoring press uses it to identify a new car that has been released and uses it to compare it to similar cars from the same segment in order to explain its competitiveness in road tests. Some car enthusiasts and buyers also like to use segments in search for the new car. And then there are some road agencies and industry institutions that like to use it for overviews and keeping track of statistics like production numbers and sales figures. And last but not least, and most importantly, obnoxious YouTubers get to make a video about it. And with that, let's go through the ranks.
A is for
the A segment. The A segment typically covers the smallest and most basic cars in the lineup of a car maker. Other terms of these cars are super mini, city car, and mini compact. The overall size is anywhere between 2.7 meters or 110 inches or 3.7 meters or 145 inches. Anything smaller than this and you enter the twilight zone of what is a car and what isn't, according to local laws. Cars smaller than the A segment cars are typically classified as microcars or quadricycles, which need a special license and are banned from highways and other high-speed roads, and are usually driven by the physically less inclined, the elderly, and your Aunt Jenny, because she is, after all, an accident waiting to happen. Interesting to note is that the Japanese K cars would also fit in this segment, although they are rarely sold in Europe. I actually did a comparison in a previous video about the history of the K cars, and as it turns out, the K car certainly meets the length, but are usually a lot narrower and taller than conventional A-segment cars. A-segment cars typically come with 1-liter 3-cylinder engines, either with or without a turbo. If you're lucky, you'll find a 1.2-liter 4-cylinder, but because of the recent trend of downsizing, the 4th cylinder has been chopped off and replaced by a turbo. Over at Fiat, you can actually get a 2-cylinder engine, the Twin Air, with a displacement of 900 cc's. That's 0.9 liters or 54 cubic inches. A-segment cars typically are of the lowest price for budget-minded consumers that see cars simply as an appliance that brings you from A to B. Either new or used, it's also a popular first car choice for many young people because it offers a great combination of relative practicality, fuel efficiency, and low cost of ownership. They also come in many different flavors, ranging from very robust and practical to stylish and more of a fashionable accessory. Interesting to note is that they're sold exclusively as a hatchback in Europe, but in other parts of the world they also come with a trunk, turning them into mini sedans. The A segment is fading, however, at least in Europe. Since these cars have to comply with the latest and greatest and ever stricter safety and emission laws, this means that car makers have to spend so much money on the development they cannot easily get it back as they would with their bigger models. There will always be demand for these affordable cars, sure, but from a car maker's point of view, the profit margins on these cars are very slim, if they make a profit on these things at all. Some 10 years ago, with a bit of luck, you could buy a brand new one for under $10,000, but these days prices are already creeping towards $20,000 and are a small step away from our next segment.
B is for
The B segment. The B segment typically covers the next step in the lineup of a car maker. Other terms for these cars are super mini, subcompact, or small car. The overall size is anywhere between 3.7 meters or 145 inches and 4.2 meters or 165 inches. B segment cars typically come with engines that are similar to the A segment, which is a 1-liter 3-cylinder either with or without a turbo, but 4 cylinders of various displacements are also common. Think 1.2, 1.4 and 1.6. Top end are 2-liter 4-cylinders, but those are usually reserved for high-end performance editions. Electric versions are also available. Many of today's B-segment cars are quite the upgrade over A-segment cars. They come in numerous trim levels and equipment. They can still be very much plain Jane, but also quite luxurious with things like automatic transmission, climate control and adaptive cruise control. Typically what you would find on larger and more luxurious models, but this time in a small and handy package. The B-segment cars are among the most popular cars in Europe and a perfect fit for young couples where the first child may or may not be on the way. It's also the type of car you'll get as a company car with an entry-level position. Once again, the car can range from being very practical to very stylish, while offering a great level of comfort and still be affordable and fuel efficient. The hatchback remains absolute king in this segment, but the more adventurous buyer will find a sedan, convertible and station wagon version if they look beyond the default choices. And how practical are they really? Well, here is a personal story. I once had to pick up a set of 6 dining chairs, and a friend of mine drove a Renault Clio, and I drove my Hyundai XG, a fairly big sedan. My buddy managed to fit 4 of these chairs in his Renault, which was actually needed as I could barely fit 2 chairs. I know it's an unfair comparison between these cars, but it does demonstrate the practicality of a B-segment car.
C is for
The C segment. The C segment typically covers the next step in the lineup of a car maker. Other terms of these cars are compact car, medium car, or small family car. The overall size is anywhere between 4.2 meters or 165 inches and 4.6 meters or 180 inches. That's a medical term. C-segment cars typically come with 4-cylinder engines that range from 1 to 2 liters of displacement, and anything in between, although turbocharged 3-cylinder engines are creeping up. Some performance and luxury versions will have 4, 5 or even 6-cylinder engines that go over 2 liters. Electric versions are also available. Many of today's C-segment cars are quite comparable to B-segment cars when it comes to equipment and luxury, but are just a bigger version. I regard these cars as the quintessentially standard European-sized car for standard-sized families consisting of 2 parents, 2 kids, a dog, and maybe a cat. It's the absolute middle ground and a great combination of everything: practicality, space, fuel efficiency, and comfort. Interesting to note is that the C-segment cars are for many lower-priced car brands their legacy model. Think of the Volkswagen Golf, the Toyota Corolla, and the Ford Focus. A car that practically sells everywhere, while for luxury car makers, C-segment cars are usually their entry-level model. They don't make anything smaller than that. Think of the Mercedes A-Class and the BMW 1 Series. Once again, the hatchback is king in this segment, but station wagon versions are also very popular in Europe, as they're essentially stretch hatchbacks, offering even more hauling space and a great fit for larger families. Sedan versions are also present, but are not so widespread, but you don't really have to search for them either.
D is for
The D segment. The D segment typically covers the next step in the lineup of a luxury car maker and the flagship of the lower price car maker. Other terms of these cars are midsize car or large family car. The overall size is anywhere between 4.6 meters or 180 inches and 4.8 meters or 190 inches, roughly. The D segment cars typically come with 4-cylinder engines that hover around 2 liters of displacement, although lower price brands will offer engines below 2 liters. Rare exceptions are 1.2 or 1.5 liter turbocharged 3-cylinders for the absolute base models. On the other end of the spectrum, you can find engines as big as 2.5 or 3 liters with 5 and 6-cylinder engines for performance versions of luxury cars. Electric versions are also available. As mentioned, D-segment cars are typically the flagship model for the lower priced brands like the Volkswagen Passat or the Peugeot 508. They usually don't offer any model bigger than this. But these cars can't be stuffed with all the equipment and options available within this brand. For luxury car makers, the D segment is where the average bread and butter cars are positioned. Think Mercedes C-Class and the Audi A4. For many, D segment cars are a nice car when you have a nice position at a nice company. Perfectly middle class, bordering on upper middle class. Since these cars are fairly big, space utilization is no longer a concern for many buyers. Traditional hatchback body styles are rare and are replaced by station wagons, which are often quite spacious and practical. Sedans are also common, but this segment also allows for the more creative body styles. Think of coupes, fastbacks, shooting brakes, four-door coupes or coupe sedans, and convertibles.
E is for
E segment or executive segment. That's right, this is the very first segment where the letter happens to match with the name. Another name for these cars is large car. The overall size is anywhere between 4.8 meters or 190 inches and 5 meters or 195 inches. E-segment cars typically come with 4-cylinder engines that hover around 2 liters of displacement, but depending on the model and trim level, you can get pretty wild. Deluxe editions come with 3-liter 6-cylinder engines, and even 8-cylinder engines with displacement around and beyond 4 liters are available. Electric versions are also available. The E-segment represents the premium and luxury cars. Many E-segment cars are the mid-range option for luxury car makers. In the past, some lower-priced car makers would have their flagship model that was sized and positioned within the E-segment, but those days are completely over. The E-segment covers cars that are premium, bordering on luxury, like the Mercedes E-Class and the Volvo S90, but also full-on luxurious performance cars like the Audi RS7 and the Maserati Ghibli. These cars are expensive and luxurious and often bought by the well-to-do that own their own companies or have well-paying jobs. Cars in this segment are also a popular choice for the taxi market. My very own car is also an E-segment car, which comes with a 3.5-liter V6. The body styles are also similar to those of the D segment. Especially sedans are popular, but station wagon versions are also available. Of course, you also have large coupes and 4-door coupes, and then there are cars that creep towards the Gran Turismo styling.
F is for
The F segment. The F segment typically covers the last step of a luxury car maker's lineup, the flagships. Other terms for these cars are luxury cars or full-size cars. The overall size is anywhere beyond 5 meters in length or roughly 200 inches. You'd be hard-pressed to find an F-segment luxury car that comes with a 4-cylinder. For many, the base engine are 6 cylinders that hover around 3 liters of displacement. But from here, you enter a world where your wildest dreams come true. 8, 10 or even 12-cylinder engines with a displacement upwards of 6 liters is possible, if you pay for it. The F segment covers the most luxurious and expensive cars that money can buy. On one side, you have the still relatively affordable premium flagships like the Audi A8 and the Mercedes S-Class, but this segment also covers the luxurious land yachts beyond that, so I'm talking about the almighty Bentleys and Rolls-Royces. Extended wheelbase versions of these cars are also common. Only the richest of the rich, political leaders, royal families and CEOs either buy or are carried around in the back of these cars. F-segment cars are the sublime combination of effortless speed, power, comfort and luxury. But this segment comes with a disclaimer, and here is where it gets interesting. As much as Europeans understand the concept of a luxurious small car, like from the B segment that we talked about, we fail to understand the concept of a large, inexpensive vehicle. Our market is modeled in such a way that large vehicles automatically are luxurious and expensive vehicles. But for countries like the USA, you have the so-called full-size sedans, a car that is big but not necessarily luxurious. So this means that cars like the Ford Crown Victoria and the Chevrolet and Holden Caprice are in fact F-segment cars and share the same space as a Rolls-Royce, simply because they're over 5 meters in length. But then, these cars are never officially sold in Europe. So, through 6 segments, the European Commission has made a fine classification of regular passenger cars, more or less based on their length. But we have only discussed body styles as hatchbacks, sedans and station wagons. But what about all the other body styles out there, like convertibles, SUVs and pickup trucks? Well, here is where it gets lazy, and also interesting.
J is for
the J segment. The J segment covers everything that is considered an SUV, and by that I mean everything. Why they chose the letter J and what happened to the letters G, H and Y, well, that remains a mystery. The J segment goes by many names and it covers so many cars. Think SUV, crossover, 4x4 and off-roader. It doesn't matter what you drive, whether it's a huge Range Rover or a Cadillac Escalade, a mid-size Toyota RAV4 or Volkswagen Tiguan, or something as small and humble as a Suzuki Jimny, or even worse, a Toyota Aygo X, it is considered an SUV. And so I don't really have a lot more to say about it. As you can imagine, vehicle size, engine size and equipment are also all over the place. The only thing I wonder is that with the rise in popularity of SUVs and crossover, also in Europe, you think the European Commission would update this list and make a sub-segment for the many different shapes and sizes these cars come.
M is for
You guessed it, the M segment. The M segment is the same story as the J segment, but this time it's all about multi-purpose vehicles, or MPV for short. Other terms of these cars is minivan or people carrier. This segment includes all the cars that are designed to carry around large families and other parties. Once again, it doesn't matter how big it is, whether you go for a small Kia Venga or Opel Meriva, or something as big as a Renault Espace or a Chrysler Pacifica, it's a people mover and thus an M segment car. Unfortunately, this segment is a dying breed, as the MPV is increasingly seen as a boring vehicle and are often replaced by crossovers and SUVs by car makers and the buying public.
S is for
The S segment, the very last segment. The S segment covers everything that is a sports car or a convertible. And once again, I mean everything that is considered sporty is covered by the S segment. So sports cars, muscle cars, pony cars, sports coupes, grand tourers, roadsters, two-seaters, supercars and hypercars. As you can imagine, the size and engine displacement are all over the place, especially in this category. So, whether you drive something as humble as a Volkswagen EOS convertible, you can absolutely brag about it the next time you're at a family gathering that you do, in fact, drive a car that's in the same league as a Bugatti Chiron. Why? Because it's part of the European S segment. And so this concludes this list of European car segments. As you can see, there is no place for pickup trucks because pickup trucks are stupid. No, I'm kidding, of course. Like I said, this list needs a much needed update. It also doesn't take commercial vehicles like vans into account that also come in various shapes and sizes. What is left for me is a little test for you. Tell me, in what segment would a Chevrolet SSR belong to? It's a pickup convertible roadster. And what about a Volkswagen T-Roc convertible? It's an SUV, but also a convertible. And what about a Peugeot 1007? It's a city car that comes with sliding doors, also making it an MPV. And last but not least, the Renault Avantime, which is an MPV, station wagon, shooting brake, 2+2 coupe, grand tourer all in one. Happy hunting in the comment section.